Hi everyone. For those of you who just joined, my name is Angelia and I'm the Sales and Support Manager for Appraiser Genie. I'm going to be the host of the webinar today, which we will demonstrate with Total Software. If you guys wish to see any kind of demonstration with ACI or Appraise It, please go to appraisergenie.com. We host live webinars for Appraise It users on Wednesdays, and once ACI is released, we will host webinars on Fridays. All right, so I try to give everybody enough time to get in the room, but we're going to go ahead and get started. This will be recorded and available for later demonstration at appraisergenie.com. Just click on the training tab and you can watch this video at any time. All right, so what you guys see on my screen is a report I have ready. And what is already completed in the report is what is required for you to have in your report when you use Appraiser Genie. Now you'll want the subject information filled out. You're going to need the address, city, state, zip, and county, of course. And you can actually navigate towards the middle of the first page. And I have the general information here, which indicates stories, detached, 1 unit, design, year built, heating and cooling. If any of this is applicable for the subjects, such as fireplace, porch, patio, and garage. That's all you need to have on page 1 completed before you launch Appraiser Genie. So we're going to go down to page 2. Okay, so on page 2, what you'll have here is all you need to have completed is the subject information on the left-hand side. What is entered here is actually going to be transferred into Appraiser Genie, and it's very important that you try to have this filled out as accurately as you can. The more accurate it is, of course, the better the adjustment and the support is. If you don't have some of this information, we will try to pull it with public records, but keep in mind we will pull as much as we can. And for everyone who is asking, I will be the presenter. We don't have time to allow someone to take control over the computer, but if you guys would like a one-on-one demonstration where you can use your own report, you can call our sales team at 325-704-2592, and they will gladly set you guys up with a one-on-one demonstration in which you can be the presenter. But for now, we're just going to go with the report I have chosen so we can meet the time requirement. Okay, so once you have this information filled out, this is the basic information that is needed. That doesn't matter if you're Total, ACI, Appraise It, it's all the same information. Just basically make sure the subject info is filled out. Now what we're going to do once you have this information complete as is, if you have not installed Appraiser Genie, I'm going to run through this real quick and show you how to do that as well. So what we're going to do is click on the dashboard button in the top right hand corner. And once you click on that, of course, your dashboard populates. Now, if you've already installed Appraiser Genie, you're going to have an Appraiser Genie icon towards the bottom here. But if you have not installed it, you're going to need to click on Launch under the Total Store. And once you click on Launch, you will be taken to the Total Store. And towards the middle column here, you have Partner Products. You should see our icon when you click on Appraiser Genie. Now there's a couple different options as far as subscription. Of course, if you're brand new to Appraiser Genie, we want you to fill this out first before you make any kind of commitment. So please take advantage of the free trial 10 uses. When you click on that, it's going to ask you to enter your a la mode info. We don't have that on file, so you'll enter your a la mode username and password and click sign in. Now once you click sign in, it's just going to thank you for your purchase, and you can simply close this window down. You'll go back to the Total dashboard, and you're actually going to close this real quick. And when you relaunch it, it will actually show the Appraiser Genie icon right here. And the only difference is it's going to say download instead of launch because it wants you to download the Appraiser Genie installation, which is very simple. So once again, once you run the download file, it's going to say launch now, and that's exactly how you install it. It is very easy. If somehow you do get confused in the process, you can always call us and we'll install it for you if needed. Okay, so we'll all be at the point where we have Appraiser Genie already installed. We can click on Launch. So once you already have the report open in the background and the subject information filled out, you simply click Launch. and you'll have your total data export box, and all you do is click on choose a currently open report. Then of course make sure you have the right report selected in case you have more than one open, which I only have this one today, and we'll click OK. Alright, so while that loads, there is one requirement process if you are a new user with Appraiser Genie. And the one requirement is we are not like other competitors, so to speak, where they may be integrated with the MLS, where you just simply create a search, you click on export, and it uploads to their software. It is different with us. You guys have to have a custom export created, and basically that means when you log into your MLS and you do a search, you need to save that search to the template that is in the Genie format. Now we can do this for you at no cost. You can email mls@appraisergenie.com. If you prefer us to do it, it's absolutely free to you. We've done quite a few MLSs across the nation, over probably about 300 different MLSs, so we can probably get it done in minutes for you. If you prefer to set up your own, you can email mls@appraisergenie.com and we'll send you a guide. And it just tells you how the fields, the ordering of the fields, and what we need for your MLS to be compatible with Appraiser Genie. Now, I've already done the step that you guys will initially do. The only thing required on your end is once you have the subject information filled out here, you need to log into your MLS, and you're going to need to create a neighborhood search based on whatever subject property you're using. So you'll simply log into your MLS, create the search. There's a button in your MLS that allows you to export. It should say export or something similar like download. And when you click export, you'll have a drop-down box that allows you to basically store custom templates. That way when it's downloaded to your computer, it's in a certain format that you make or we make. So this file here I'm going to open is an example of this. Okay, so this CSV, all this is a search I did on the MLS. I did a 2-mile radius based on my subject property. I went back at least 1 year. All I did was grab active solds pendings, made sure it was single family residential, and that is it. This is your neighborhood search, and that is all you're responsible for defining in the MLS because the Genie analyzes the entire neighborhood. So once you're done with Genie and you export back, we're going to fill in the 1-unit housing information and this 1-unit housing trend information, and that's going to be based on this MLS file that you're going to put in the Genie later. So make sure, don't get confused on this part, you're not defining the 1004MC, you're just defining the neighborhood boundaries based on however you want, zip code, mile radius, subdivision, high school, whatever you want. So this I saved to my computer, and all I did is I already had a template on my MLS that I created myself. I labeled it Appraiser Genie, and all these fields or these headers are in the exact order we need them. So when we put this inside Appraiser Genie, it's in our format, and there's nothing else required by you. So once again, email mls@appraisergenie.com if you need help with this part, and we will get that taken care of for you. So I'm going to minimize this. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Appraiser Genie. It automatically launches when you click on Choose a Currently Open Report. And it's going to launch in whatever you have set as your default web browser. I have Chrome, as you see down here, which is the recommended browser. Genie just runs a lot better when you use Chrome versus Internet Explorer, but that is up to you. So you'll have this pop-up box, and this populates automatically for you. I've already created an email and password, but you guys who've never used Appraiser Genie will not have this. You need to go down here. There's a button that says registration. When you click on that, it's just going to have you make an email password, and then it just asks for your phone number, just general registration information. So you'll fill that out, click OK, and then it just takes you back to this screen, and all you do is re-enter that email you just created and the password here. So I have my account already set up, so I'm going to go ahead and click Submit. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and let that load. Alright, so what you see here is it looks like Appraiser Genie is ready to go. Now when you're a new user, a brand new user, we have quite a few different defaults that you can set up to further complete the report and your adjustments. So I'm going to take you to that tab the way you guys will see it when you first launch Genie. So at the top you have a back arrow and a forward arrow right here. We're going to click this forward arrow and that lets us tab all the way over. If you notice, the tabs are moving across the page. And we want to go all the way over until we see a tab that says defaults. You can click on this tab at any point. It doesn't matter where you are in the Genie. This is helpful. We want to do this first. So we're going to click on defaults. Alright, so the only difference you guys will see is you'll have a tiny pop-up box and it's just going to be the Appraiser Genie Terms of Service Agreement. It will just populate in the middle of this page. You do have to scroll down and agree to it and then just click accept and you'll be where I am. So this page here is very effective for you, and basically what we did is we created different defaults that can help create a better report for you and can also fill out the comp grid by setting defaults in here. And the reason I say that is some MLSs may simply not allow you to indicate any heating and cooling information or maybe the year built, just because they don't allow you to export that information to your computer for whatever reason. If that's the case, there's some defaults you can set up here that we can put something as standard and it will put it in the grid and try to fill out as much as we can for you. So what I'm going to do is start the page top down and show you some of this information. We won't go through all of these tabs in detail just because there's a lot of information here and it would take me over an hour. You only want to set these up once. Once you do that, you're good to go. So first, what you guys want to pay attention to is software. Please make sure if you're a total user to click on a la mode. If you use ACI or Appraiser ClickForms, just choose whichever one you use. And once again, ACI and ClickForms, those are pending. I don't have a definitive date, so right now we're with Total and Appraise-It. So I'm going to click on a la mode. Okay, now the defaults you see here are optional. These three at the top here relate to your adjustments. It was requested that we set a variance here, meaning if you don't want to typically adjust for every year difference subject to age as far as comps, you can put a 5 here, and Genie is just going to skip over the first 5 years plus or minus the subject's age, and we won't give you an adjustment if it falls within that 5. But everything over the 5 years, up or down the subject's age, we will give you an adjustment for. So I put a 5 here, and I'll show you guys later how Genie is just going to skip over that first 5 years up or down, and then everything else will get an age adjustment for. Now going back up real quick, this concession box, this is completely optional, and the reason it's optional is some MLSs may not report concessions. So if they don't, this box will not do anything for you. This is relying upon the MLS reporting the concessions for your area. These little blue question marks will further help you. So if you click on this question mark here, we want you to enter the maximum percentage of concessions that is customary for your area. Anything over this percentage you put here will automatically be adjusted. So I put 3, which indicates a percentage, telling Genie that 3% is my maximum customary percentage. And if anything else is reported over that, then we will give you a concession adjustment. Or if you just want all reported concessions adjusted, just put a 0. It will take into consideration anything that's reported for concessions. I'm going to put a 3 there. Alright, so next here is site size variance. This is also related to an adjustment. This is a percentage as indicated. And what this 30 means is I don't want to provide a site adjustment if my comps are within 30% site size variance of my subject. So if I put a 30 here, then basically anything over a 30% difference site-wise, I will have an adjustment for. Anything under or within 30%, basically Genie just skips over that. So if it falls within 30%, there will not be a site size adjustment to the comps. And you can change this. These are all subjective to where you are, of course. Okay, the subject previous sales years prior and the comp previous sales years prior. These are also usually defaulted. You have a 3 here for your subject previous sales years prior, and for a comp you have 1 year. Now FHA I believe is 3 years, so if that's applicable you can change that to a 3. Okay, below this you have minimum square foot to adjust. Whatever number you indicate here, Genie will not give you a square foot adjustment for. So if you're an appraiser who typically doesn't adjust for maybe the first 100 square foot difference, you can put 100 there and we'll just skip over that. Or you can put a 50 there. It's whatever you would typically do. Alright, moving on, the adjustment rounding. This is related to Appraiser Genie's adjustments. We can round up to the next 100, the next 500, or the next 1,000. If you want it more precise, then I would put it on 100. It's up to you. Okay, here you have the comp export sort order. This is just a column that you can choose from indicating in what way you want the comps to be displayed in the grid. If you typically order the comps maybe by close date, contract date, sales price, whatever the case is, you can select from this drop-down box, and that's how they will be displayed in your grid. I'm going to leave mine on close date. Okay, the below options here, they're all optional. If there's a checkbox here, that indicates that Genie can provide the adjustment and support for this, but if you would prefer to provide this information on your own, you can deselect these, and you will just do that once it's back in the report. Or if you just want to see what our information looks like as related to what you would do, etc., you can leave all of this checked, and you'll have a PDF explaining how we derive the reconciled value, the effective age, or these adjustments here. It's up to you. Alright, so this National Association of Home Builders, this 61.7 is the national average cost for constructing a home. You can right-click on this link and go to Save Link As. I think I did that wrong. I didn't mean Save Link. Open link in new tab. Sorry. Okay, so when you click on this link, it's going to take you to their website here, the cost of constructing a home. And actually, this percentage is used in defining the GLA percentage out of the total replacement cost. So the total replacement cost being 100%, 61.7 is allocated to GLA, and you can look this information later, but you don't have to do anything with this percentage. It's just there for you. Alright, so this is important in this area, MLS acronyms, and what this means to you is when you have your MLS set up, or mapped as we call it, you will need to enter the abbreviation of the MLS you use. For example, I have ABOR here, which indicates Austin Board of Realtors. We're in Texas. Interest, which is North Texas real estate, that's Abilene area, I think Dallas area. And then this one is just another one I've been testing that's not in Texas at all. I think it's Cedar Rapids. So you'll just simply put the abbreviation of the MLS you use, and it has to be what we have on file. So for example, if you use Austin Board of Realtors, you can't put something other than ABOR or your information won't show up correctly. And don't worry, if you're not sure what we have on file, we'll tell you that once your MLS is set up, so we'll take care of this part for you. Just make sure you put there what we have on file. You can have up to 8. If you're an appraiser who uses multiple different MLSs, you can list up to 8 different ones here. Okay, so this verification source field here, this is going to be what is placed in your grid in the verification source field, which I'll show you. So up top here on page 2, you have a field verification source, and you have a field data source. Now the data source you can't edit because we always put the MLS acronym, the MLS number, days on market. So this will automatically just show up here every time. But as far as verification source, you can put something in this box such as MLS, assessor, whatever you want in here, as long as you choose it from the drop-down menu. So we're going to go back to Chrome. And you'll see I have county assessor. So in verification source right now, all that's going to be transferred to the report is county assessor, but you could rewrite it, and I'll give you an example. If I put it MLS, assessor, this is exactly how it's going to show up here. It's going to say MLS, assessor. Or if you want more than just that information in the box, there's a drop-down menu. You can put the doc number there, the list price there, listing office, whatever you want. Just choose from the drop-down. And there's 3 different boxes, so you can put up to 3 different things. Okay, the rest of this information is generally just to help you fill out the grid. So for example, rights, under property rights, we're going to place fee simple as a default. So for each comp, we will indicate fee simple for rights or leasehold if needed. And same thing for location and view. We try to fill out as much of the grid as we can for you, and this is all dependent on your MLS or public records, whatever they provide us with. So if you know typically you're not going to get the location rating or location factor, you can put something here as a default, and that's what's going to show up in the grid. Most people just leave neutral residential, but if your MLS does provide it, it'll overwrite this and it will put whatever the MLS actually gave us. Same thing with view. The view rating, view factor, functional utility. You can choose from a drop-down box here, or if you provide to put something maybe like this, whatever you want, you can type over it and that's what's going to show up in your grid for functional utility. Same thing for energy efficiency. You can use what we have here. If you prefer to write your own acronym or verbiage or whatnot, you can type over it here. Now in porch and patio, most MLSs do not actually indicate clearly if the property has a porch or patio. So you can put something in this box here, and that's what's going to be placed in the grid right here under porch and patio. So whatever you put in that box, we're not actually going to verify if the MLS has a porch or patio. So if something's indicated, it's just going to say that for all the comps you choose. Or you can do what I do and leave it blank, and then you can just go back and put in your own porch and patio info if it's easier than just having a default here and erasing it. It's up to you. Or if you want something there, type whatever you want to show up in the grid. Alright, so the next few boxes here, blank row 1, blank row 2, blank row 3. These refer to the 3 blanks at the bottom of your grid here. You can put whatever you want there. Genie can pull fireplace, porch, or excuse me, fireplace, pool, upgrades, workshop, in-law, etc. There's a drop-down box here. So this is blank row 1, blank row 1, blank row 1. There's just up to 3 different options you can have entered in row 1. So for example, in the top blank row, if you want us to provide the fireplace, but you also want list price in there, and you want it followed by outdoor kitchen, if you list it this way, then in your report, you're literally going to have fireplace here, and the other 2 choices you selected all in this blank row 1. I don't generally recommend that just because there's only so much information you can put in a field, so I usually just do 1 at a time. But if you do more than 1, you can indicate how you want it separated. You want it separated by a comma, semicolon, dash, etc. I recommend if you do use fireplace to put it in row 1 because the adjustment will always be entered in the top row. So for example, fireplace, if you indicate it here, Genie always gives you a fireplace adjustment in the top blank. So if you were to put fireplace down here, it does not matter. The adjustment's still going to go at the top here. Or here, sorry. So I don't recommend that you leave fireplace anywhere else other than the blank row 1 if you use it. And pull, I recommend the same thing. If you want a pull adjustment, you need to put that in row 3 because that's where the pull adjustment always goes. Row 2, doesn't really matter. You can put whatever you want in there, and you'll notice there's a drop-down menu. So if there's an option you want to use in the report, you can select it from the menu. If it's not available, then you need to leave it blank. You'll still have to fill that into your grid. We can only pull what's actually able to be retrieved. If the MLS gives us pull and fireplace, etc., we'll definitely put in the report. If they don't, then just leave that box blank and just do it yourself once you're back in the report. If you have suggestions, feel free to make any. As long as we can pull it, we will put whatever you guys want in there. Alright, so this public record verification box, what this means to you guys is later on when you're choosing the comps you want to use for the report, you can tell Genie which source you want to use to fill out site, age, stories, etc. There are three different sources we use. We use public records, we use your MLS export, which is the file you'll save to your computer, and our peer database. Our peer database basically reports to you a running average of what the previous appraisers are using for that comp, as far as stories, age, site, nothing proprietary, just general information you see here. And what you do is, if you know for public, they report better information for the comp site, or if you're MLS, the realtors skip it and don't always enter it, you can choose public, and for the comps, we'll just verify public records for site, and same thing going down the page. If you're not sure what to use, leave it on Ask Me, and later on you'll have a little pop-up box and we'll tell you what everything said. We'll tell you what peer said, what MLS reported, and what public reported as well, and then you can choose manually what you want to use at that point. So I'm going to leave it on Ask Me for basement square foot because that's always up in the air. You never know who has that, so I just leave it on Ask Me. Okay, lastly you have the column order. This column order is going to display the information related to the comps based on how it's lined up here. So when you're choosing the comps you want to use for the report, you can reorder these columns and it will just display all the comp information based on how you have it lined up here. So I prefer to see GLA pretty immediately, maybe days on market, sales price. If you leave these close towards the top of the page, you'll just see them immediately. And the ones very far at the end, you're going to have to scroll pretty far over to see it. So site, we can move that up. You know, maybe I want to see site, that's important. So I'm going to scroll it up. All I do is click on the field and click on up. And that's going to move it towards the top of the page. And I'll just put that under age. You guys can take time to do this at some point. You can get it set up however you want. That was just a demo on how it works, and I'll show you the page I'm referring to later. Okay, so once you've modified anything on this page necessary, you can scroll back to the top of the page, and there's a button on the left-hand side. You need to click on Save. Anytime you change anything on this page or any of these tabs, make sure you click on Save so it applies the changes. Alright, so it looks like the page is saved. Now as stated, there are additional defaults you can set up here. For example, graphs, you can click on graphs. You can choose either month, quarter, or year, and then you go below and choose which type of graph you want based on month, quarter, or year. And this is one graph here. You can move over to this. This is graph 2. Choose month, quarter, or year, and the type of graph you want below. Now I already have some selected here, so I'll show you guys what the graphs look like later. But you can come back to this tab at any point yourself and choose whichever ones you'd like. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the report now. This was just a general overview, but there is a demo video that outlines every single tab in the Genie once you start using it. Okay, so once we've saved defaults and we're ready to start, there's this forward arrow once again. We need to click this and go all the way over, and we're going to click on the Input tab. So once you've arrived at the defaults, saved it, made any changes, simply arrow back over and click on Input, and this is how you begin the report. So we'll let this load. Alright, so once this loads, you're going to see the subject address across the top of the page. This is pulled, of course, from your report. If you don't have the parcel number or the legal number filled out, we'll pull that for you if we're able to. So I didn't have this in the report, but it pulled it for me, and that's what's going to populate back into the parcel number and the legal info on the report. Alright, so the way you start Appraiser Genie is you start the page top going down. So the first thing you're going to do is enter the effective date of the report. I'm going to go ahead and just choose today. I'm going to go below that and select the form I'm using. Now there are different forms in here. Some of them are UID, non-UID. Just make sure you choose the right form, which we're doing the single family 1 to 4. Now interest is the MLS I'm going to be using today, but if you are an appraiser who has more than one MLS set up, just make sure you use whichever MLS the subject is for. So this is for interest, or intrace. I'm probably saying that wrong, but I think it's intrace. Okay, you'll go next here, include cost approach and report. Now there's a yes or no option here because cost approach is optional as far as us completing that on page 3 of the report. If the lender or the client doesn't require cost approach to be completed, you can select no, and we just don't fill it out in the report, but we will still give you the support in the PDF. So whether you actually put cost approach in the report or not, you'll still have the documentation and the support. So we'll leave it on yes. These are also optional. You have the REO addendum, quantitative REO addendum, and the listing addendum. If these apply to the report, just check them here, whichever ones you need. Okay, so moving on, this next section here, basically this is going to go back to the MLS. You guys can read this box if you need to, but I'm going to explain it to you. So as stated, I went onto my MLS, I created a neighborhood search, and that's it. I didn't narrow it. But what I'm going to do in a minute is I'm going to import all of these comps into Appraiser Genie, and let's see how many there are. About 244. So the 244 is going to make up my neighborhood search. And I'm going to want to narrow that down because I want to produce the true comp search. I want to kick out any comps that are not truly comparable and kick out some of those so they don't affect my 1004MC. So what I would do is I use these filters to the left here, and it's going to narrow that file down based on whatever I put to the left. So for example, stories, if I put an equal sign here, then I'm telling Genie I want the comps to be the same number of stories as the subject. Anything you put an equal sign just says it needs to match the subject exactly. For age, this is a plus or minus, and all that means is Genie is going to search the comps, and the comps have to be within 8 years of the subject, newer or older, plus or minus. Same thing with GLA, it goes plus or minus the subject, and it's a percentage. So I only want to return comps that are 40% within the subject's GLA plus or minus. So basically I'm going to take over 200 comps and I want to fine-tune it and narrow it to provide the true comp search and to basically fine-tune the 1004MC as well. So I'm just going to use this as is. Anything with a 0 just means you don't want to particularly narrow it by that. So site size, I don't care to narrow it there. I'm going to put a 0. And anything else with a 0, we're just not narrowing it by that particular field. So we'll go and start with this, and you guys will change this accordingly depending on the property you're using, of course. I've already looked up some of the information, so these are good filtering parameters for me. Okay, going down, you have reconciliation weighting. Now this little blue question mark will further explain that. Weighting for reconciliation is a use path requirement between the 3 methods. A weighting of 1 to 10 for each method is recommended. The total must equal 10. So what I generally see here is a 10, which means I'm telling Genie to put the full weight on sales comparison approach. But you could divide this up. So if you wanted maybe 8 here and 2 here, that's fine. Just make sure that's up to 10 in total. So I'm going to put the 10 back. You don't have to put a 0 in here. You can just leave them blank. Okay, next you have highest and best use. The top use is current, which is residential. Below is possible, which is residential. Now, multifamily displays is default, but if this is not applicable, then you can just click the blank space to get rid of multifamily, which is relating to highest and best use. Okay, this next section below is land comp sales. Now, anything that's green means you can transfer your own information into these boxes, so Genie can consider it. You generally probably will not use this area, though. This is really only if you have raw land sales that need to be reconciled. If that's applicable, then you just type in the address, sales price, site size, etc., and it will consider this information. If it's not needed, we'll still give you an allocation, extraction, or regression land adjustment if that applies. So you can skip over this and leave it blank. Same thing with this section, square foot method. These green boxes, once again, you can edit and transfer your own information. Now, you probably won't use this area either unless you subscribe to Marshall and Swift. All you do is transfer your information here, and it will consider the Marshall and Swift cost information. Or you can simply leave this blank, and we'll just fill it out for you using buildingcost.net. So most people tend to leave this blank, but by all means, it's up to you. Just transfer their info here if needed. Okay, so all we do is once we are at the bottom of the page, we scroll back to the top. Now there's a button on the left-hand side, Start New Report. When you click on that button, what Genie does is it opens up your computer's File Explorer because it's looking for that MLS search to import. So I've already done that as stated. It's right here. I've already saved it to my computer. All you guys do is click on Export in your MLS. You should have a drop-down box. Just change it to Appraiser Genie once we set that up for you, or you do. And then you simply save it wherever you want on your computer. I already know where I've saved it. It's right down here. So all I did is navigate to the folder that it's in, and I'm going to double click on that. And all these comps I showed you guys earlier in the neighborhood search, 244, we're going to import those into Genie, and we're going to narrow it down based on the GLA, age, and story count. And we also make it UAD compliant. So if the realtors enter, weird stuff or whatever, we will make it as UAD compliant as possible. So we'll take care of that for you. What you see here is your subject information. So this information was transferred from right here on page 2, which is why we want you guys to have this filled out here. So your job here is once we populate this, we're telling you to look at this, make sure everything's right. If you need to add or modify anything, you can change it here if necessary. Now this gets sent to buildingcost.net, and they return the total replacement cost based on the subject's area. So this quality rating that you assign the subject, that's super important. Your adjustments can be either too high or too low if you select the wrong quality rating. So just make sure this is right. So I'm going to leave it at Q4. Everything else looks good, and then I'm going to click Next. Alright, so we're going to take those narrowing filters, remember, and we're going to narrow that file down. So we're going to see how many comps are remaining. This little pop-up box you guys won't get, that's internal use only. Okay, so this counter at the top tells you how many comps are on this page. So we started with over, right here, 244 comps, and Genie narrowed it down to 100. So the comps that didn't meet the parameters are not on this page. They're not true comps, and they're not the most comparable properties. So they'll stay in your neighborhood search for your one-unit housing trends, etc., but they will not be on this page. What this page does is it produces the narrowed search, and I will give you some background on this page. We run the matched pair analysis based on the 100 properties you have on this page. The 79 solds, that is what Genie is going to use for your regression analysis. And for your extraction and allocation adjustments, we only use the subject and the comps you choose for the report. Also, right here, this is going to make up your 10-0 Form C. So the 79 solds within the last year and the 14 actives, that will be the 10-0 Form C that we're going to complete for you on the report. So this page, you actually have a lot of control. If you get to this and you feel like you need to narrow it down even more, you could click on this Input tab, and all you do is go back and readjust your parameters, just re-import that file, and you can change this if needed. Now, as stated, I've already done this report quite a few times, just messing around with the parameters to fine-tune it, so I'm good with what I see here. Now, out of this page here, you see the comps. All 100 comps are on this page, and we actually put this in order for you, starting with the top going down, with closest proximity to the subject, then most recently sold, and least adjusted. So this is actually in order. It's already defined for you. So theoretically, if you narrow it accurately and you establish your neighborhood boundaries from your MLS correctly, and then you use our ordering, the most comparable properties should be towards the top of the page. Now, by no means do you have to use our ordering. If you don't care about distance or least adjusted, whatever the case is, you can grab this little horizontal bar at the bottom, and you're going to see all the information for each comparable that's on this page. And this is why I told you guys in the defaults you can reorder how you see the information displayed. So just go back to your defaults, and if you prefer to see these in a different order, then you can do that there. I've already ordered it, so generally what I'm looking at is already at the front. Now, if you don't care for our ordering and you want to change the ordering, you can click on any column header here and you can reorder it. So if you want to look at sales price, maybe highest to lowest or vice versa, you can click on sales price. It will load. And of course actives, anything with a 0 will be towards the top because it's going lowest to highest. Or you can change that, click on it again, and it should go highest to lowest. Alright, so there's my highest, 230,000, and it's for this address here. Now, of course, you can look at anything you want on this page. If you do want to look at distance, I believe it's way at the end here, which you guys can reorder in your defaults, but I don't generally use distance. It's up to you. So right here. So this is 0.7 miles from the subject and so forth. You can even reorder that if you just want to click on this instead. Alright, so your job from here is once you have an idea of the comps you want to use for the report, you would select them. Now if you, as stated, click on sales price and you change the order, don't worry, there's a button at the top, reset sort order. If you click on that, then it just puts it back in the ordering we had it in, which is, again, closest proximity to the subject, then most recently sold, then least adjusted. So you can do whatever you want on this page. The subject box just retrieves your subject information just for reference. And lastly, if you go through this page and you see any comps that got to this point that you don't want to affect any kind of adjustment or 1004 MC, you can click on the address like so, and let's say these were outliers. Maybe they shouldn't be in here. Somehow you didn't narrow it correctly, whatever the case is. You can click on the address and click on delete selected comps. And when you click on yes, it's going to kick it out of this page. So it is staying at 1004 MC, but it will remove it from this page so it doesn't affect any analysis, 1004, none of that. Now generally you shouldn't have to do that if you actually, define the boundaries correctly. John W. asked, can we narrow these columns? No, they're preset, which is probably a reason why you'll want to go to the defaults page and at least reorder them. That way, if there is something you want to see, you can just move it to the front, and then maybe the column size wouldn't be a big deal. But you cannot minimize these or squeeze them in any way. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I want to select the comps I want to use for my report. So I'm going to just go through here and click on a few. I'm going to go back to sales price and just look at that. Alright. Okay, so here's my sales price. I'm just going to grab a few here. Doesn't really matter. Now you can grab a minimum of 3 sold, but you can select up to 15 different comps in the report if you use total. If you use Appraiser, you can only select up to 9. I'm just going to go ahead and select 3 sold. If you have any actives that are required, the S indicates sold, and below that you'll have actives if there are any, which there should be quite a few, but I reordered it, so they should be at the top. A is active, and P would indicate pending. Okay, so once I've selected the comps I want to use, which I have a counter here, I'm going to go ahead and click on Next, which is going to take the comps I chose, and we're going to verify the public records against the MLS, against our peer records, which is what I set up in the defaults earlier. So it's just going to transfer them over, which is what typing comps means, so we'll wait for that. Alright, and you're already on your last page. On the left-hand side, you have the subject address, 2949 Red Oak Cliff in Abilene. Red Oak Circle, sorry, I was thinking of Dallas and Abilene. And when you scroll down, the information that's already displayed here, this is site, right across, property rights, fee simple, location, neutral, etc. This is all transferred from page 2 of the report. If I left out anything, but let's say I knew the design, which I think was traditional, I'm just going to put TRAD. And that should be entered into the subject. If I forget that in the report, it should export in there now. So you can correct or modify anything you need to on this page. Nothing's in stone. Anything you change will automatically update any adjustments that are affected. So if you accidentally entered the wrong age, maybe you can simply type the correct age, just click out of the box, and it will update and recalculate the adjustments for you. Okay, so we're going to scroll over. Alright, so going horizontally over, this is the first comp I chose, 2958 Arlington Avenue. Of course, all the information shown below is from MLS, public, or peer. The pink boxes, they're not telling you to fix it. Genie's just saying we used public records to fill this out. That's all this means. It's not an error. And we'll go over, and here's my second comp, 5366, and my third comp, 2402 South 41st Street. Alright, so it looks like everything transferred great. Looks like all the information's in there. You can, like I said, modify it. If you want to read the page, just look horizontally. So rooms, here's my total room count, bed, bath, and then here's my total room count, bed, bath for this comp here, 2958 Arlington. Alright, so the majority of what you'll do on this page is in the middle of the page here. You're going to have a header that says adjustment. When you scroll down, it tells you the type of adjustments we give you. That's just a side adjustment, age, bath, bedroom, GLA, etc. You do not by any means have to use all these adjustments. They're there for you. Choose the ones you typically want to use. Any of them you don't use, you'll still have the support in your work file later. So what we're going to do now is we're going to want to select the adjustments we want to use. So for example, here's site value. Now the land value is pretty low in this area, so you'll notice right here it says 3,700. That's based on allocation, or 4,200 based on extraction. This is the land value provided by both methods. So if you see these and you have a question like why are they too low or how is that derived, you'll notice now at the top of Genie all these tabs, you can actually click on them at this point. So if we want more information on site, we'll click on land. And it's going to take us to the land page, which will be converted into a PDF, and it's going to be put in your work file. So we're going to scroll down. Here's the extraction method. Any formulas are very easy to read. So this is telling you to take B minus C minus D minus C, which is B minus C minus D minus E. The land value is at the bottom after any formulas were used at the top. So 4,200 is the land value for extraction. And down here you have the land allocation method. Now this one's a bit different. If you'll notice, we pull the local assessor total value, the assessor improvement value, and the assessor land value for your subject and the comps you choose for the report. And this will be placed here. Now this is pulled for you and automatically transferred, and you'll notice that's pretty low. So the land value is minus the subject pretty low. So they're averaged out and basically put against the subject, so pretty low. And this is just going to vary depending on the comps and subject you use. So this is just a PDF that will be converted, put into your work file. You can click on any of these tabs. If you want to look at allocation, you can click on this tab. Now this one's pretty cool. The 62% that I told you guys on the defaults, we pulled the National Association Home Builders. That percentage on the defaults was 61.7. We round that up, and that is what is used for GLA. 62% is allocated into the total replacement cost being 100%, and we derive an average dollar per square foot based on the subject and the comps you use. So for example, if we scroll down, you'll see down here it says find average dollar per square foot from comps. We take the subject, GLA, and of course the comps GLA, which is here. And we have the sales price, site value, concessions, if reported, adjusted price, dollar per square foot. If you look at the bottom here, this dollar per square foot, 77, that's the number that we used, and that's the average dollar per square foot based on the comps and the subject. So right here, the $77, very simply, all we do is we take the 62% and do $77, which gives you a $48 per square foot adjustment. And that's what you'll see on the allocation adjustment on the side-by-side, which is the grid. Same thing, that's for a total garage space per space, 3,700. So we will go back up, and we'll use these little forward arrows, and we want to go back to the adjustments, which is called your side-by-side. Alright, so what we need to do now is we need to click on any adjustments we want to use for the report. I don't really care about site. I did put a 30% site size variance on my defaults, so if these are within 30% of the subject, it's not going to adjust anyway. That's 9,000 square foot, and that one's 69, so I'm not really worried about it. They're pretty close to my subject, so I'm going to skip that one. Going down here is age right here, and that's going to be $1,000 per age year difference. I did put a 5 in my defaults, so if it's within 5 years my comps against my subject, it's not going to make an adjustment anyway. We can click on it just so you can see how it works. If you click on the box, it's going to turn blue, and straight across it's going to make an adjustment. Actually, I don't remember if I erased the 5 or not. I may or may not have. I can look, but it took 40 from 38, and it looks like it's skipping a year. Same thing with this one. It didn't make an adjustment because that's the same. 38's 38. And then 44 made one, which makes sense. 44 to 38. Oh, that is 1 year. Okay. All right, so same thing. Here's GLA. You have your GLA adjustment here. You can use $50 per square foot based on allocation, $45 per square foot based on extraction, or if regression provides an adjustment, you can use $62 per square foot for regression. So it's up to you guys. I'm just going to go with the median, 45. And what it's going to do, Genie's going to put an adjustment directly across. So here's my first comps GLA, and here's my first comps adjustment. Second comp adjustment, and third comp adjustment. So it's per square foot difference. Now if I don't click on these, for example, let's say heating and cooling adjustment doesn't need to apply because they all have heating and cooling, including the subject, you can just not select this and you'll still have the support in your work file. 50 would be the median, so I'm going to click on 50. Okay, so for example on garage, you'll have a garage and carport adjustment. So here's your garage adjustment. If a carport adjustment's needed, it's here. Of course, you have your matched pairs here, which are also, it just applies, or it just depends, honestly, if the data count, out of that 100, if we can produce matched pairs or not. But if there are matched pairs, you'll just see it display here. Now it's up to you. You can click on matched pair analysis if you want to see more information about this, or use whichever adjustment you'd like. I'm just going to click on allocation being 4,000. Now this is the same, of course, 2-car attached driveway. It's not going to make an adjustment to that one. And this one it did. So you have 1-car garage attached, 2 driveway, which this is the difference from the subject, so here's your adjustment. And this one shouldn't adjust because it's the same. And give me 1 second, I think I was asked a question. Okay, matched pairs uses the total count of the narrowed search. So on the comp search page, the counter displayed 100. So the 100 comps on the narrowed search, that's what's going to be used for matched pair analysis. For example, we started with the 244. It's not going to consider all 244. It's just going to consider the narrowed 100 after we narrowed it. Same thing with regression. The only thing we use for regression is the solds on the comp search page. So on this tab up here, you'll have a tab that says comp search. After you narrow it down, you're taken to that tab, and you'll have the counter that tells you how many solds are on that page. That's what's used for regression. So I think I had 60 solds, give or take. I don't remember exactly, but those 60 are used for regression analysis, and those will be based off the adjustments here. Now that honestly depends on your area. If you can't pull 100 solds or even anywhere close to that, you're not going to have a regression analysis adjustment if you only have, 7 solds, because that's all you can pull, which is applicable. It just depends on the data set you have. And Fannie Mae uses regression analysis, but they have millions of comps. So you may or may not have an adjustment. It depends on how much you start with. Okay, so there's a fireplace here if you want to make a fireplace adjustment. Now, as indicated, fireplace I put in row 1, and here's fireplace. This is always going to be in blank row 1, and this is where the fireplace information will display for the comps, always in the first blank. Same thing with pool. If there's a pool adjustment, it will always display down here, flat across the board. Now, I don't care to make a fireplace adjustment. It's up to you. If you want to make a carport adjustment, you can click on that. data load. If an adjustment is necessary, it will apply. And that's the gist of this page. So this page is primarily used for you guys to just look through this. If you need to change anything, you can, and select the adjustments in the middle of the page. Okay, the last thing I want to show you guys is under each comp you select, you'll have a realtor button in red. If you click on that and your MLS gives us any list agent, sell agent information, or remarks, that'll be displayed here. Or you can click on tax, which will retrieve the tax info here as well. Alright, so you're ready to export your report at this point. I don't generally make time per month, but if you wanted that, you can click on it. Same thing with land value. I'm going to go ahead and click on Export to Report. You're going to have a little pop-up that says Preparing Reports, and that just means we're taking everything you guys did inside of Genie, and we're going to transfer that back to Total. Now this land value box is just telling you which land value would you like to use that Genie derived. Do you want to go with this 18,009 for extraction, allocation 9.7, or if you don't want to use any land value, you can click on None, and I'm just going to click on Allocation and click on Next. Once again, you're just going to sit here and let this load. Alright, so in a moment you should have a little pop-up box right here that says Data Wizard. This is through Total, so this is what we're waiting for. And all you're going to do is select Merge into a currently open report. Of course, make sure you have the right one selected. Now generally, the whole point of Appraiser Genie is to fill out the 1004MC, the comp grid, the comments, the cost approach, etc. If you click on this top box, and let's say for some reason you already had the 1004MC filled out or the grid, we do not override it if you leave it on Keep the Data. So most of the time, you guys are just going to have the subject information filled out so we can do the rest. So generally, you'll leave it on Replace the Data in my open report. And if you have a sketch, you'll want to come down here and check this box. If that doesn't apply, just leave it alone and then click on Import. Once again, we'll wait a minute. Now you'll notice at the bottom Total is indicated orange. It's highlighted orange. So once it's highlighted, we can go back to Total, and we should see all the comps that we chose in Genie in the grid, along with any adjustments that were made, which I only made a few. So this one made an adjustment. Of course, there's a difference subject to comp. And then any square foot difference, of course, that will make an adjustment, or age. Okay, now porch and patio, I left the default blank. So it's not going to put anything in porch and patio unless I go back to defaults and type whatever I wanted to see. If I had typed this in defaults, then that's what's going to show up here, no matter if it has a porch or patio. So that's why I don't actually put in the defaults, because if they don't, you're just going to have to rewrite this anyway. Alright, so what we're going to do now is pull, of course, indicates none. I left blank row 2 kind of empty because if it doesn't find any upgrades, and that's what I have in blank row 2, in my defaults, it doesn't put anything in here. So that's what was set up for my defaults, but there were no upgrades that we can actually verify, so it leaves it blank. Okay, so we're going to go down to Market Conditions Addendum. Okay, so you have this information filled out here. These check boxes, we just added the latter of these, so the next time you guys actually run it, it should indicate stable, decreasing, whatever the trend is. Or of course you could do it yourself, but it should populate there for you. Same thing with this comment. This is just automatically placed in the concession comment, which you could actually go to your defaults. Once again in Genie, click on Defaults. There's a tab that says Comments. You can use what we put in there for you, or you can overwrite them. You can write your own. If you're an appraiser who has a template and you already have maybe predefined comments, you can copy and paste them in there, and then we'll just put here whatever you'd like. Or you can write your own, and it'll just show whatever. It's up to you. Cost approach. So a cost approach, what will indicate is the building cost.net, the replacement cost new, which is what we verify. The quality rating building cost.net determines, which a Q4 they consider average. And then you have the effective date of cost, which is February, of course, in the year. You can put whatever you'd like here. The cost approach, building cost.net is publicly accessed, so we don't put a verbiage here, but if you put your own here, we don't override it. So it's up to you. Okay, so we're going to go up to a couple more things to show you guys. Alright, so we're going to click on this work file tab. In the work file tab, you'll have all the PDFs that were indicated in Genie that are converted to a PDF here. So if you click on them and just hover, any 1004MC allocation, they will populate here. So I showed you guys the allocation tab earlier, and all we did is we converted it to a PDF format so you can use this information for your own. You can leave this in the work file, or you can put this in the report if you'd like, which I can show you how to do in one moment. Now this is all blank because we didn't go up to 12 comps. So we'll just go back to, let me give you an example, regression or reconcile. So reconcile is pretty cool because what we'll do is we give you the weighted by quantity of adjustments, weighted by net dollars, weighted by gross dollars, and it's averaged out, of course. And the full breakdown on the quantity of adjustments, net dollars, and the gross dollars are indicated here. And then you have your weighted analysis towards the bottom. So I put the 10 indicating the full weight on sales comparison quality, which is right here. So 127 is what's going to be placed in the reconciled value, which is going to be placed. Hold on one second. I don't know if it's delayed on your guys' end, but it's kind of laggy for me. There we go. So the sales comparison approach is going to be indicated by the reconciled value that's derived. Now I will show you guys how to put that in there real quick. So if you're in work file and let's say you want to place this reconciled PDF in the report, you can click on reconcile, go to insert as page. You can rename this whatever you'd like. Okay, and then you click on OK. Now it's going to process the report. We'll go back to forms, and at the very bottom down here you have the reconciled PDF. Now you can move these, shrink these, whatever you want. This is just how they were defaulted through total, so it's up to you. Alright, and that pretty much covers it. The only other thing I want to show you is we didn't close out of Genie, so it's still open in Chrome. Once you look through total, make sure everything's in there, then we can click on yes under did your report export correctly, and it's good to go. So we're going to close this tab, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you guys have. Anything you need to know, go ahead and you can turn your mic back on. Let me unmute everyone. Give me one second. Now, as you saw, I did go through the defaults. The defaults takes maybe 15 or 20 minutes, so once you guys have those set up, you won't have to do that again, so it should be a lot quicker for you. Does anyone have any questions before I wrap this up today?
Yes, I would like to see the graphs displayed.
Sure. Let me go back. Okay, so in the work file, depending on the data set you have, you should have a bunch of graphs in here if you select them. So you can click on supply and absorption rate. This is one of the graphs I chose, which will indicate the absorption rate, the supply rate, the trends, the data, etc. Let's see if there's trend year, REO less than a year. See, and there's no REO sales, so that's going to flatline if there's nothing in there. Let's go to quarter trends, I believe. And once again, this has to be enough variance to display anything. And quarter number of sales just tells you in green, sales days on market, listing number, sales date. We'll find the histogram. That one's pretty good. Histogram, and that just indicates the sales price, etc. So make sure you guys select these if you use them. If you don't use them, then you can still select them just to see what they look like and then decide if you want them in the report or not. Up to you. Anyone else today?
Yeah, this is Ray. How did it attribute the quality and condition ratings to the comps that it chose through Genie?
The quality and condition rating, let me go back real quick. Let me go back to... Okay, so the quality that is assigned to your comps, that's just a reference. We don't actually verify if it's a Q4, Q3, Q2 because we don't have a way. So whatever you put for the subject, it's literally mapped over for reference as an indication that the comp should be same quality rating. That's purely it. Same thing with condition. It's just there for a reference. We don't actually give you a quality or a condition rating. If you guys have a way to do that, by all means, let us know.
So if you have a better quality of condition, does it automatically adjust?
For in the Genie, you mean on the comps if you were to indicate a quality and condition yourself?
Yes.
No, we do not provide a quality or condition adjustment at all. The only quality and condition, the only reason this is used is because buildingcost.net returns that information to us. So you guys will always make your own quality and condition unless we add that in the future, which I would have no idea how we would do that. So also, someone had asked if you make any additional adjustments to the report that the Genie didn't make, then the reconciliation will not be correct. Exactly. So what we provide you guys is what you do within Appraiser Genie. If you go back to your report and then you start making additional adjustments yourself, then the reconciliation is only going to be based off of what you did in Appraiser Genie. And I wanted to say that because that's actually 100% correct. So thank you for asking me, Brian. So just remember, you can do whatever you want, but anything that you want supported has to be in Appraiser Genie. Let me go answer another question.
How do you open the report from, you said we can also have NDC and then open the report, open Genie through, there's a different way to open the report instead of saying pick the right, the open one. So it auto-populates the public records?
Oh, I got you. Are you talking about the desktop icon?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. The desktop icon is an alternative way you can use Appraiser Genie, and all it is if you have not inspected the property, therefore you don't have a report ready that has the subject information, you can double-click this icon. You'll choose whichever software you use. For example, we'll go with Total, which is a la mode. You click OK. All right, so Genie's going to launch the same way. It's just not going to go through Total. So there's no subject information that's transferred in here because you didn't go through Total. So what you'll do is you'll have a blank subject address. You have to type in the subject. So for example, let's just do this one. You type in the street number, street name, tab, the zip code, tab, and in a moment the parcel number and legal will pull, and you go through the Genie the same way you did earlier. Make sure you go to your MLS, do your search, make sure the subject's in the search, and what we'll do is we'll create the report for you and fill out as much of the subject we can based on your MLS and public records. So that's the alternative way if you have not inspected the property yet. That's what that's used for. Any questions?
Yeah. Oh, are all these when we pick how to customize the defaults, is that per computer or is that under my profile name and with Genie and with the a la mode?
Right, it's per login. So when you create your email and password, the defaults are stored under your username and your password because it's per appraiser.
Does Genie work with multi 1025s also?
Genie uses currently 1004, 1073, 2055, 104, 1073, 1075, 1004, 2055, etc. General purpose, ERC, 2095. Those are the only forms we support, and right now it's only single family. You can't do multifamily. You can't do commercial, none of that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Let me go back to, okay, so Brian, you did ask if you could make adjustments in the Genie. You can't make adjustments in the Genie because there's no backup to that, meaning all the information that we give you an adjustment for is verified from your MLS, public records, county assessor, buildingcost.net. So if you were to just put in your own adjustment, then there's no backup for it. So you have to use the adjustments in Genie, which you can change if you need to change the comp information or the subject information or the land value. Those things you can change, which would essentially recalculate the adjustments, but you can't just type in an adjustment and expect us to back it up. So that's the clarification. Hopefully that helped you. Anyone else have any questions before I wrap this up today?
Yeah, one last thing. With public records, you said that we can put you put the name of the public records that you're using, but can the doc number be instead of saying that you put MLS, comma assessors, but can we put their doc number and then the doc number gets imported into the report?
Yes, sir. In the defaults, in the verification source field, there's a drop-down box, and one of the options was doc number. There was realtor name. There were quite a few different defaults. So if you want doc number here, just select it in the default, and it will transfer here for you.
But I mean, the number from public records, the document number from public records will transfer there, or it will only say doc number?
Oh, no, sir. We pull the actual doc number. So whatever public records indicates as the doc number, that's what will be here for each comp. We'll pull the actual number. Yes, sir. Okay, so for clarification, if you guys were to go through Genie, you do the cost approach, reconciliation, you pick the comps, you select your adjustments. If you wanted to go back and do anything additionally, let's say you get back to the report and the first time you selected no on cost approach, maybe it wasn't required, and then you find out that it is. When you go all the way through Genie and you get back to this report, that's one use, one session. So if you forgot something in Genie or you needed to modify, you literally click on dashboard, you start it over, and you'll have to make those modifications in Genie because it's a web application. So whatever you do in Genie applies to this report. Anything outside of this that's already done, you have to literally start over. So what I recommend as far as cost approach, my opinion, is it doesn't matter if it's filled out in the report. In the work file, you're going to have a PDF that's labeled cost. You can later put the cost approach in yourself if you're not sure if it's required. Or just leave it on yes, always have it in there, and then kick it out yourself in the report. It honestly depends on you and what you would feel would be easier. So it's up to you guys.
I have a question about bathroom count. In my MLS, they put, like, let's say for 2.5 bathroom, they put 2.5. Mm-hmm. When we'll transfer that information, would be that corrected automatically?
Yes, you mean if they're not putting 2.1 and they're still going with 2.5?
Yes.
Yes. We updated that, I think maybe, I'm not actually sure, but not too long ago because most MLSs still put 2.5 or 1.5. Majority of them don't indicate 2.1, but we know what it means either way. It should correct it once it's back in the report to 2.1, 1.1, whatever the case is.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Not a problem. Public records, we get that from Public Records, CoreLogic. And that's just the default that you guys are given. So we'll always pull public records, and then it's up to you whether you want us to use that information for the comps, or if you prefer we use the MLS export or a peer database. Now, a peer database is subject on, it depends on how many people are in that area. So if not a ton of appraisers are using Appraiser Genie, maybe you're in rural Wisconsin or somewhere very small, that case, I don't recommend you set it to public records, or excuse me, peer database, because it's not going to pull anything if it's not in there. So if you're in California, you know, Sacramento, Texas, the larger states where we have a ton of customers, then those would be probably the states I'd recommend peer database. Otherwise, I just recommend MLS or public. No, it doesn't pull the full county record printout in the work file. It'll give you a property report. You'll have a PDF labeled property report. And if we find any sales previous history for the subject or the comps, you'll have that in there. And then we'll tell you what we use for MLS, public peer. So it'll report all the different sources and what they said for each field, like site, age, GLA, etc. The tax information to be in there, legal description. That's called a property report, and it will be on a PDF. And I can show you real quick. It'll say property report, and if there's any previous sales history, It'll just be indicated down here, and then it tells you what MLS reported, public, peer for each thing. Heating and cool, fireplace, basement, etc. You have the assessor value, legal address, and that'll be in there for all comps as well.
If you were using peer information, will you indicate to us how many appraisals are actually in that peer group in our market?
No, it just returns the average. So if the average appraiser, let's say there was 5 entries for a comp for site, and they all reported the same thing, or there was one variance, it just averages it out and says, okay, averagely the appraiser is saying the site for this comp is 2,900, or whatever the case is, and then it'll just tell you what was used in that field from our peer database. So if peer was used for GLA, and the average was different from these two, it'll just show you, okay, you used peer and it was 1,800, whatever the case is.
Is there a way for Genie? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
You know, when there is a difference in age or slight, and we need to put 0 in the adjustment column, is there a way for Genie to put the 0 there or not?
Well, you could, what do you mean? In an age adjustment, you mean put a 0 there so we don't give you one?
No, you know, like UAD requires that if there's a difference in age between the subject and the comparables, and no adjustment was required, we put a 0 there.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. It will do that. Like, for example, if you have an age adjustment in Genie and you click on the box but it doesn't make an age adjustment, it just puts a 0 in the grid for you. I don't know if that's what you mean.
Okay, yeah, thank you, yes.
Mm-hmm. Brian, can you put the MLS sheets of the comps I used into the work file? Yeah, of course. Now that's something you would do on your own. I believe you just literally download the MLS sheet from the MLS and then just put it in the work file by going to add, and then you go to wherever it was, files from computer, etc., and you can put it in here. You'll have a comp search page. Let me see if I can find that. Right here. This comp search page, it looks very small because what we're doing is literally the narrowed search, which was 100 comps, all have to fit on this page, but you can transfer this page. If you want to move it into a PDF or something where you can blow this up, you can, because right now, since there were over 100 comps, it's going to put it in there, but I mean, look how tiny it is. And it tells you everything for each comp. So if you were looking at in a Genie, how did the 1004MC calculate, what were the adjustments based off of, you would literally look through this because it's going to be based on the 100 properties here as far as matched pairs, regression, etc. Or you can literally click on regression, and regression is pretty cool because it gives you the analysis that was done towards the top, and at the bottom the data set just tells you every sold property that was used in this regression analysis support. So that's there for reference if you even need it.
Do you mind, can you just show me again how it is that you put like charts or any of these pages into the report?
Sure. So let's just say you like this regression analysis PDF and you want it in the report. All you do is you just click on the one you want. So we'll click on regression. You'll go to insert as page. You need to label the form so you know what it is. So I'm just going to put regression, whatever. And then I'm going to click on OK. Alright, so it's in there, and all we do now is we're going to click on Forms, and at the very bottom you'll have the PDF for the regression analysis, page 1 and page 2.
Thank you.
Of course. Public data is basically live, so as soon as you use Appraiser Genie and we need to verify public information for any of the comps or the subject, etc., it just basically pings the database. So we just send the comp information or the subject information to their public record database, and that's just retrieved to us. So that should be pulled instantaneously, unless for whatever reason they don't have it updated on their end, which isn't too frequent. It just depends on their end, though. All right, guys, so I'm going to wrap this up. Please, 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 if you have any questions, email info@appraisergenie.com or go to appraisergenie.com, click on the training tab. You can watch this video. If you guys still need your MLS set up, please email mls@appraisergenie.com, and they will give you more information on getting started, and that's the only setup required is your MLS custom export.
May I ask you one last quick question, please?
Sure.
You says it's a web-based application, but we can once I do my MLS search and I save the CSV file into my computer, I can be offline for Genie to auto-populate it to use a Genie or not?
Well, Appraiser Genie is web-based, so it requires an internet connection. So if you're in the field, you need internet connection. It's web-based, which is the point of web-based, is you have to have an internet connection.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Now, we're working on a mobile app. I don't have a definitive time frame. I know it's pretty much done, but if you're in the field and you want to use Genie while you're in the field, you'll be able to do it that way once that's released, which, once again, I don't have a definitive time frame, but it's pretty cool because you'll get it free. If you're a Genie subscriber, you'll have the mobile app for free. All right, so thank you guys so much for attending. I know we ran a little bit over, but I generally want to do this to answer any questions. Once again, take advantage of customer service. You can call 325-704-2592 if you have any questions. Thank you. You guys have a great day.
Thank you for your time.
No problem. Thank you. Bye.